So we're doing something new this time. I'm actually in Malta, New York. I just spent the day going through the whole company, doing a fab tour and everything. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that. But while I was here, I also wanted to get a chance to interview Tom Caulfield, who's the fab GM and senior VP here. And it's actually been quite an amazing tour, Tom. But welcome to the program.
Thank you, Dan. Last time I did this with you, I had a little less gray hair, maybe a little bit more of it. And it was out in Santa Clara. So thank you for visiting. We enjoy having guests, and we're pretty proud of this facility and what we're doing here. So thank you.
Yeah, it is a ways to come. So, how did you get here, this Malta? You know, it's actually been quite an amazing path historically, right?
You mean how did Malta get here, or how did Tom Caulfield get here?
How did GlobalFoundries get here? You know, how did the fab get here?
Yeah, I think it's a great story, and I think it's very fitting in what we think about the country today in creating manufacturing jobs. Here we are. I don't think there's a more difficult manufacturing job you can do from a technology perspective. And if you can't do semiconductors in this country, you know, what can you do? And I think the whole journey of GlobalFoundries in Malta doing leading-edge semiconductor is an example for a recipe that will work for the rest of the country. And essentially started with people in government, in the private sector, a long time ago investing in high tech. And I use the word investing, and I'll use it throughout my description with you, because investing always implies a return. And too many times people use the word incentive, and the implication of incentive is entitlement and not a return. So in the late 90s and during the original Mario Cuomo days, they created around Albany a Center for High Technology for the semiconductor industry. And through both Democratic and Republican regimes, they continue to invest in high-tech semiconductor at a facility called CNSC. And that created an ecosystem of people, suppliers, and capability that then made this region attracted to do that next level of investment in manufacturing.
Yeah, it's interesting now. The big thing is make America great again. And when I went back, it was a little while ago, but you know, in terms of the counties in New York that have recovered from the Great Recession, there were only two that had really recovered it to a major degree, and you know, one was New York City, and the other one was Saratoga County, and Malta's in Saratoga County. So I assume it was more than just horses and ponies that were.
Yes, the vacation industry is still alive, the hospitality industry is still alive and well, but the economic growth has been because of high-tech manufacturing, and clearly that's centered around GlobalFoundries. And how GlobalFoundries wound up investing in Malta was, again, co-investments between the public and private sector. These investments were made on a global basis on competitiveness, not a local basis. In fact, the original premise for the New York State investment, for the return they wanted to see in economic activity, was that GlobalFoundries would invest roughly $3.2 billion and employ 1,200 people. And today, we have over 3,000 people on the site, and we invested well over $12 billion. So think about that return.
And we're not talking about minimum wage jobs either. We're talking about really high paid. You need good technical talent.
Average salary, $95,000 a year, high-tech manufacturing jobs. And it's a broad range, from some of the smartest scientists in the world to very talented equipment and process technicians that help us carry out our mission every day. But the key ingredient were the investments that the government made that were competitive, so the returns can be enjoyed in the United States for both security, national security, and for manufacturability of leading-edge semiconductor. And I believe this is a great model that can be replicated throughout the country.
So let's turn sort of to GlobalFoundries. It wasn't easy bringing a fab up in the middle of nowhere where there were no other semiconductor companies within hundreds of miles, if not thousands of miles. There was the IBM, but in terms of companies there were no other foundries, there were no other large merchant semiconductor companies out there. And I know it went through a lot of fits and starts, but the reputation of what's been going on in Malta has dramatically improved since the IBM acquisition, but also since you came here. And I saw that today when I went around the fab. It was just an amazing difference in people, the quality of the people. So what were some of the things that you did differently that has really made this thing hop?
So again, I think the reason this site was chosen was there was at least an ecosystem around. But any greenfield fab is very difficult to do because you're starting with employee 1 up to growing to employee 3,000. And so the first couple of years here, as any greenfield, was a little bit of a struggle. I came in when most of the physical construction of the buildings was done, but we were still ramping. Maybe we were only 10 or 20% of the tools in place. What I found here was a pretty solid base of employees. I think what we lacked a little bit was a little bit more experience on the leadership team. And it's easy to recruit when you can paint a vision of what it means to demonstrate that you could do high-tech manufacturing, to get people a little bit later in their career, that it's more than just a paycheck and an opportunity to work and be rewarded for that, but to maybe prove a point. And the people we were able to recruit from our others in the industry, from the Intels, the ST Micros, the Samsungs, the TSMCs of the world, was pretty dramatic. The people bought into this. We're going to go change the industry that changed the world. Right? The semiconductor changed the world. The semiconductor manufacturers, right, are the ones that are able to create that change.
So you've been had amazing results at 14 nanometer, 100% first time right tape outs, which used to be unheard of in the foundry business, and it's become more common. But 14 nanometer is a cutting edge process, and it takes a lot of teamwork to do that 100% kind of capability. Tell me a little bit about the teamwork. How do you inspire that?
Yeah. So there's a couple dimensions to that. I do want to say that we had a great partnership with Samsung in bringing 14 nanometer to the marketplace together and as partners. But I think you really hit on the essence of what it takes to do any kind of manufacturing, any kind of team. Everybody could buy the physical assets, but it's the human capital assets that are going to give us the biggest leverage. And we created a whole mindset here, and we called it investing in ourselves. Again, that investing word, because it implies a return. And we invested in 3 areas of, I'll say, technical vitality. 1, how do we engage as a team? We had a very diverse group, culturally diverse, gender diversity, experiential diversity, a lot of college hires and very senior professionals. How can we learn to better leverage each other? Because there's no such thing as one person knows it all. In this business, you need a team of people, interdisciplinary skills solving the problems. And so we spent a fair amount of time investing in how do we kind of beat the competition because we engage better. We spent a fair amount of time in building a leadership team and training our leaders, the difference between being a manager and a leader. And then, of course, we created the enablement around technical vitality in between distinguished lecture series to technical training and certifications for technicians. We had to build that all from the ground up. Now, it didn't happen on day one, but I could look back now over almost 3 years and see the impact it's had in our ability to execute. And I always joke with my team, if I ever had the chance to do the ultimate controlled experiment, it would be trying to bring Fab 8 without any of that investment in our human capital, and one without it, and see which one would have delivered the results. And
which one would you have chosen?
Oh, I think if I only had one, it's the one I chose. You have to do it with that investment because you have to believe that that's the key to success. Now, you talk about first time right. We're very proud of that. We didn't have many options. Our customers spend a fair amount of time to get early designs to the marketplace. These processes are more complex, so the time from a tape out to first silicon is a little bit longer. And they don't have time for us not to get it right for them if they want to get to the marketplace and have their competitive leading edge products in a timely fashion. And by the way, the sooner we do it as well, the sooner we ramp to revenue. So we put a very tight management system around that. And I will tell you, the thing that impresses me the most of what our team's accomplished is not only was it first time right, many of our designs came right out to the first wafers yielding to what I'd say our defectivity entitlement would suggest they should yield. And so as we improved our yield, D0s, our products that we'd introduced came very quickly to those capabilities.
Now, there's this belief that American companies can't compete against Asian companies. Companies in Taiwan, China, Korea, Japan. Yet you're doing it, right?
And it'll be that much sweeter when we continue to prove that that's a fiction.
Yeah, so how are things different in the semiconductor industry? What makes it really special? Is it the fact that there's not a lot of cheap labor that you can lever off of if you're trying to build something overseas, or is it the access to highly educated talent?
Remember, we have a broad semiconductor business at GlobalFoundries. Here we do the leading edge. Remember, there's only 4 companies left at the leading edge, anything below 28 nanometer. TSMC and GlobalFoundries is the only pure play foundries, and then Intel and Samsung that have foundry and IDM models. So you're already talking about being in a very select group. And by the way, facilities around the world that actually practice the R&D and manufacturing of these technologies, you could count on 2 hands or less. So you are talking about a very specialized capability, and where almost everybody who participates in this has some level of skill. Even our dedicated process and equipment technicians, the amount of training they have to go through to be able to be certified to do their jobs is quite an ordeal. So there are very few, I'll say, minimum wage jobs that you can just have people assembling, put this bolt on this screw. Those jobs really don't exist in semiconductor by and large.
So you should really know, because you have fabs. You have the fab here, you have the fab in Dresden, and then you have fabs in low-cost areas like Singapore, right?
And future fabs in China. And remember, with the IBM acquisition, we picked up a Burlington fab and a fab in East Fishkill. And look at our Burlington fab. This is a place that still produces 200 millimeter wafers and is very successful. And it's done it through reinventing itself from offering product technology, not necessarily device or shrink technology. So it says, let's take enablement to a different level. Let's offer functionality that's differentiated from others. And I don't think you can buy a mobile device. The chances are, 9 out of 10 of a mobile device has some silicon content from Burlington in it.
Wow. So we've talked a lot. Why don't we turn the tables? Do you have any questions for me?
Well, sure. We brought you all the way out here to see our facility. What'd you think?
It was amazing. I was really impressed. I was really impressed with the people. Your comments about the people were great, because you go around and you talk to them, and a lot of the tours, no one, they don't know everything. They're not on it, and your people are always on it. Every question I asked, not only that, but a lot of times they anticipated my questions. When you asked them the why question, because a lot of times people know what something is, but they don't know why they're doing it. They understand it to a deeper level here than most of the places I've been. So I was certainly really impressed with that. Impressed with just the clean room discipline throughout the whole place. Places that don't have to be clean, but you were creating a whole mindset throughout the whole area that clean is important. So those were some of my real takeaways.
Very good. This is expensive table stakes to be in this game, and we view this collectively that we're fortunate to have a facility to get to do this, and we treat it a little bit like our palace. And I love the excitement, because it's one thing to do a job, it's another thing to like what you're doing. And we spend a fair amount of time to make sure that everybody that has the role here knows what they do every day, how it reflects upon the overall game plan for GlobalFoundries and for Fab 8. So when you ask not only what is it you're doing and why, they could also tell you, I bet, because of what they're doing, how does GlobalFoundries achieve their business mission? And it's not always easy. I mean, this is a very competitive industry, and probably a little bit more competitive than anybody likes it. But even in the face of that, this team's pretty inspired to do their job, and that's something that when I look back at what the rewards I've gotten out of this role over the last 3 years, is the team, the tremendous talent we have on the ground, and the fact that they're excited every day to go change the industry that changed the world.
You know, the other thing was, when I first came out here, they had this little line item of that I would get this virtual reality tour, and I kind of thought, what does that have to do with semiconductors? But, you know, coming away from it, it was interesting because not just the virtual reality part, but what it meant and why you were showing it to me, because my impression was, coming out of it, that it clearly shows that you and AMD are back working together again on GPUs, on cutting-edge GPU technology. And there was a while there where, you know, I talked about earlier about how, you know, GF didn't have the best of reputation, and part of it was when AMD went to the other guys to use as a foundry. Now they're back with you.
Yeah. You know, everybody can argue how it's that partnership forces that, but I've seen partnerships that are toxic, and our partnership with AMD is outstanding. I think we bring out the best in one another.
And they have to choose. They have a choice.
They have absolute choice if we don't deliver. And I'd like to believe, and I think they believe, that our ability to execute for them has helped them as a company and their shareholders over the last year. Their products certainly are exciting. I'd like to make two other points in that. One, you know, for our team, we have a internal branding we call "We Make Period Possible," and making stuff this day and age is kind of a lost art. There's a lot that gets done virtually, but if you don't have the semiconductors at the heart of every appliance we use, none of this happens. And by us taking real products that we make for our customers and demonstrating them here for our customers, equally for our employees, they get to see the excitement of what they do every day and how it manifests itself into something tangible, and they see. We actually created this virtual reality room with AMD, both the CPU and the graphics processor running in it, just so our various departments, right, facilities people, technicians, HR, everybody can come in and participate and see the products we make here, how they get used in the marketplace, and bring a little excitement around what we do. Not just the little route wafers that we ship out of here, but how does it wind up and changes the view of people's lives.
Great, thank you. Thanks for having me out too.
Oh, you're welcome. I'd be remiss if you talk about the turnaround of GlobalFoundries. Sure, there's a piece for Fab 8, but there's a reason a lot of us came to GlobalFoundries, and that's our CEO, Sanjay Jha. He started a couple months ahead of me. In fact, he was the guy that convinced me to come to GlobalFoundries, and he's really been the architect of the turnaround of the whole execution of GlobalFoundries that Fab 8's just a piece of. And I think it's a testament to when you bring great leaders in like Sanjay. He could surround himself with lieutenants that can get the job done.
Yeah, we obviously had great vision to see the value in IBM and the patent portfolio, all of the IP around mobile and everything, and in a way that no one else had before. And what his vision for GlobalFoundries has been a marked change from the history, and it's really more than a foundry. It has a view of where the future's going.
Oh, I absolutely agree. The IBM acquisition was pivotal, both from a consolidation and getting some economic scale, getting technology, product portfolio, and a bunch of technologists to help us do the next generation of technology, whether it's 12FD or 7 nanometer, magnetic memory. There's a lot of areas that the IBM acquisition is going to help our product portfolio in the future.
Well, great. We've run out of time. Went fast, huh?
Yes.
So thank you for giving me the time. I appreciate it.